What's up, you guys? I'm gonna go ahead and explain something. It's like if you guys can see my wrist and all that, and all this and that, the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and say something a little bit different. That you can build a lot of tone all together and definition, but the whole thing about it, you really have to dedicate yourself to what you're wanting to achieve. And here's the whole thing I really will tell you guys what I actually did for like 2 weeks. I went ahead and did a lot of tricep dips, and this is the thing I actually say about it. You know, Whenever I did them, I went from high reps, low reps, but I'm not really trying to shoot for the same numbers all the time, all together. But sometimes it's like you can do a lot of high reps, and the next thing you know, the next day you probably go a little bit lower, go a little bit higher, go a little bit lower. And it was like to me when I did all that, I will say is it's like when you do high and low reps up in a pattern, it's kind of like your pyramid lifting. It's like, first of all, you go to this net amount of reps, like, okay, 100. And next thing you know, the next day you go down to 80. Next day after that, you go up to 120. Okay, you go down a little bit lower. Or you decide to go a little bit higher, like more than 120. Say, for example, you do 150. Another day, you probably go down to probably 50. Then you do 100, probably maybe this and that or something like that. It really depends on how you feel altogether from them days. And, you know, in 402 days, in 2 weeks, I did pike push-ups. And, I did a lot of them. And the whole thing about it is like, from arm wrestling all together, is that sometimes some people, they really don't really build up their triceps or either work on them. But I will say something about your tricep. The thing is, you really have to state is, whenever you're trying to pull something, you're going to use your tricep a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of your bicep. But the whole thing about it, it's like whenever you're sitting like this, like I actually did make a video about like a pulling strength video altogether about using your lat and using your bicep. I also will say is work on the tricep, because a lot of the time when you use your tricep, it's taking a load off of that. It's going to help your pulling power. It's like you can see this one as well. A lot of times, as much as having strong hands and doing a lot of different things, and yet it's like a lot of these content videos I've been making, from exercise and all that, here's the thing about why I've been doing them, because of, I really enjoy the journey. I don't want to take shortcuts to make big results. I'm not with steroid use or anything, and, a lot of times if people are just building muscle kind of faster, probably because they're doing higher reps, and yet learning how to break down the higher reps of calisthenics, I will say is about it. What I like about calisthenics compared to weightlifting. And here's my reason why I switch from calisthenics at times. And compared to like either doing a lot of higher reps with weights, is that sometimes to me you can do more calisthenics compared to weightlifting, because here's the thing about it. When you do weightlifting, you're going to be limited to a certain amount of reps and stuff. And it also is going to depend on how much you're able to lift and also how much you're lifting at a time. Is that with lighter weights, you can do more reps. And you can build more strength from it. But the thing is, at the same time, that I also really do state is, even resistance training, you can build up a good amount of stuff from your wrist, your arms, your legs, and probably some other muscle groups too. And I will say is it's like from standard fitness tests, like if you look at the military, they have them do calisthenics. And altogether, when you look at calisthenics and bodyweight training and also weightlifting training, here's the thing about with calisthenics and weightlifting, they calibrate. There's the line where they meet, and also like the static holds and stuff. It does make sense to actually practice that, because a lot of times when you practice static holds to weightlifting, you're going to have rare levels of strength and also holding power, which is important, because here's the thing about it is like some people, after they start lifting a certain amount of weight, their arm is like this, it starts getting cracked open. But here's the problem of it is that sometimes you can be lifting weight too soon, yet I can risk roll a pretty good amount of weight. But the whole thing about it is, I'm not a big fan of like getting all these big old weights and yet have time burning myself out with them. You can do a wrist push-up and all that. It's like a lot of these exercises I've been doing and stuff and things, and get the confidence to do them. They take time and patience, but I will tell you guys this is that don't take a muscle for granted, because the thing is, when you take a muscle group for granted, is that you're really losing power. And yet, a lot of times when people tell you don't train your tricep, worry about your bicep and shoulder and forearm, the whole problem of it is when you're missing a muscle group, and yet some people actually declare, okay, why the heck is my elbow hurting? It's probably because you're neglecting your triceps and you're neglecting your elbow flexors, and plus, there's different ways that different muscle groups connect to another muscle group. It's like sometimes to me you can throw so much power with your upper body, and yet to go ahead and take pressure off your upper body, off your back, train your freaking legs. And yet some people will tell you in arm wrestling, don't train your legs. But here's the thing about it: if you don't want to train your legs so much, here's what I'll tell you to do: get up on the daggone bike, do lighter exercise, do stuff smart, but do stuff to where like you're getting a good result by it, and a good benefit and a good balance. It's like, you know, my thing is, you don't want to sugarcoat, you don't want to cheat, you don't want to do something where there's no benefit, there's no gain, there's no real balance. It's like, if you ever think about this, and this might be a little bit different, is that sometimes me and ever had a hard time picking up something, or it wasn't something up on arm wrestling table. You could use your legs a little bit. Okay, so your back's not having to work so hard. Then boom, there's some power there. It's like a sissy squat. When you're doing a sissy squat, you're leaning like this. That can also prevent you from falling, but which is a good exercise. So I don't want to keep it too long. So that's about it. Peace.